Inside this bucket are the amazing agates I found out in West Texas near the Rio Grande River. They're all cleaned up. Let's take them inside and take a closer look. We will begin with these white sort of agate quartzy rocks. That's what I'm calling them. I'll show you all these rocks, both dry and wet. So this one looks like it's mostly quartz, but upon closer inspection, I can see that there's a little something going on inside this one. I think this will make a good one just for tumbling. I could cut it. Maybe I'll do a cut and tumble with this one, but that's about it for this. Now you see this bigger one has this big chunk here of chalcedony in it. Let's get this one wet. Yeah, I think this one will be a good one to cut. Again, it's mostly quartz, as you can see, but also, well, in addition to that, there's some other areas that look like, once this gets cut and, let's say, slabbed, could be really nice. Next up is this big guy here. Here it is dry. Well, it doesn't look much different wet, but we can see some detail in it that we couldn't see before. You see there's some interesting patterning on this one that makes me think that once this gets cut, let's say slabbed, it could be really interesting. What do you think? And then there's this white agate rock here. What will this look like when we get it wet? Well, much like the other ones, you can see it has some potential. Notice the waviness in there. You see that through there? I can imagine slabbing this one and getting some really pretty slabs out of it that might make some great cabochons. And the last one out of this white rock series is this one here, which looks like it's got some interesting stuff in it. Let's get this wet. Now this one I think will be the most interesting of all of the white rocks. You notice the quartz running through there, but there's other stuff in it as well. I like that we can see like the pattern on there. Yeah, look at that. I think once we cut into this one, get a few slabs out of it, they could be really nice. I'm not sure what this brown stuff is down here, but the rest of it looks really interesting. Well, hopefully you watched the video I made a few days ago featuring my rock hounding trip out to West Texas. If you did, you might remember this one. This was the first, well, nice agate that I thought I found. It was on the first full day, and I got it home and got it cleaned up, and sure enough, there is a little bit of agate material in here. In the video, I was trying to point out that I could see some mossiness here and here, sort of the yellow and the red mossiness. Let me get this wet and I'll show you what I mean. Well, as you can see, now that I've got it wet, there is a little bit of that sort of agatiness right in there, if the light captures it just right. But as you can also see, it's a very thin area of agatiness. I hate to use that adjective, but I'm gonna stick with it. The rest of the rock looks like it's maybe a jasper. I think it'll still be fun to slab, but it's not a great agate like you're gonna see here shortly. This rock I did not show in that rock hounding video because when I picked it up out in the field, I thought it was just a really interesting quartzy rock. But once I got it home and got it cleaned up, I'm not so sure. Now that it's wet, notice the amazing color in this rock. Look at that through there. How beautiful will this be once I slab it? It could still be a quartzy rock, but I was looking at it very closely and I thought I could make out some fine banding, maybe up in here. I'm not sure. Regardless, I really think this is going to be stunning when I get a couple of slabs out of it because, so let's say I cut it like that. You can see that each slab will have these amazing colors in there, almost like a red, white, and blue, sort of mixed up a little bit, but yeah, this could be quite the sleeper rock. The very last rock I found was this, what I call a sagenitic agate. Sagenitic. Now here you can see why I think it's a sagenitic agate. Look at these sprays going through here. Aren't those cool? Now clearly you can see it's a well-river tumbled agate. Not at all like the other ones that I found. It's too bad I didn't get to see this one before it got all tumbled, but that's all right. I think what I'm gonna do with this one is just continue the process and get it tumbled a little bit more and then put a polish on it. Because I really think this stuff is gonna look awesome with the shine. Next up is this little agate nodule that I found. Doesn't look like a whole lot when it's dry, But when it's wet, you can really see the agate goodness in this one. It's got lots of cool stuff in there, and you can see some very fine banding in there. I'm not sure what this host rock material is. It actually, you know, now that I look at it in this light, it could all be translucent. I thought, especially when I was out in the field first looking at it, I thought this was just like a host rock, you know, non-translucent rock, but looking at it now, I'm not so sure. Cool little agate. Not sure what I'm going to do with this. I know I said I'd probably just tumble it, but I don't know. Maybe I'll just put some mineral oil on it and leave it as is, as a nice little specimen of an agate. Right after I found that agate, I found this one. They were very close to each other, and it's a similar little agate. Yeah, as you can see, it's got a lot of the same sort of look to it, the same features in it. What a beautiful little agate this is. And again, I'm not sure what I'll do with this one. In the field, I said I might just tumble it, but it's a very odd shape, so it would not make a particularly good rock to tumble. Although I guess with this one, I could do a cut and tumble. That's something I'm doing now, so I could split it in half and we could look inside and then tumble both halves. So that's a possibility. So here's a jasp agate I did not show in the rock hounding video. I have tumbled a rock very similar to this before in one of my earlier videos, where it's this sort of, I don't know, golden yellowish jasper and that chalcedony. Turned out great. This one, however, is a little bit different. Let me show you. Here you can see on this side that it has a big clear chunk of chalcedony right there, and this yellowish mineral. I'm not sure what that is. So you've got this side, which again, I have tumbled a rock that looked exactly like this, really, with the same color, jasper and chalcedony. But this other side is different. Look at that. That's pretty. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this one. Any suggestions? This might be fun to split open, look inside. When I found this one, I thought it was going to be more of a mossy agate, and it is, I think, in some areas, but it's not as exciting as I was hoping it would be. Once I got it home and cleaned up, I could see more detail. With it wet, you can make out a little bit of something going on. So I think it'll still be fun to slab, but as you can see, it's almost just a jasper. I do think there's some translucency in it though. So I am going to slab this one. Now this good looking rock, on the other hand, is definitely an agate rock. Let me show you it wet. There you go. Notice that fine mossiness in there. And then on this side you can see even more. That is a good looking rock, I think. It's kind of an odd shape, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. Oh, I could probably just throw this one in the tumbler. Maybe cut and tumble this one too, so split it right down the middle and we'll have the two halves to tumble and polish. What do you think? This one's really interesting. It's not like those other white quartzy agate rocks I started with. This feels like opal, really. So let's get this one wet. You can see that it has some interesting fine detail in it. And this mineral here, well, I'm not sure if that's a mineral looking at it now. I'm not sure what that is. It could just be staining. That looks like a real change of mineralization right there. In other words, that's going to be in the stone. This one is going to be fun, I think, to slab and cab. It's really an interesting looking rock. Out in the field, I thought this one might be a plume agate because of what I was seeing up here. Let me get this thing wet and I'll show you. So now that it's wet, you can see right up in here, you see this dark area here and there in front of all this sort of chalcedony looking stuff. To me, that looks like a plume agate. But the rest of the rock, oh, I don't know. It's odd looking. So I'm not sure about this one. What I'll do is I will get this one cut and slabbed, and we'll cut through this here and see what it looks like. Maybe it will be a plume agate, maybe not. We'll know here soon enough. All right, we're starting to get to the really good agates now. I'm saving the best for last. This one, I think, is going to be a super interesting agate to cut open. Now that it's wet, you can really see the pattern in there. Look at that. That's interesting. Oh yeah, I think this is going to be really fun to cut open. I can imagine slabbing this one like along that plane there maybe. because it looks like that's a very interesting surface. This will be a fun one to slab and cab. Now this agate was the first one to really get me excited on this trip. I found this one on my first full day, and I noticed I could see, well, you'll see here once I get it wet. Okay, check out that fine banding around that chalcedony right there. So I spotted that. Now, I know it has a lot of this host rock on it, but look on this side. Look at that pretty stuff through there. Yeah, this is going to be awesome. It may not be a complete agate. I don't know how much of this host rock is on here, but I can still imagine just getting several slabs off of this and finding some really beautiful, beautiful things inside and making some, well, some shiny and pretty cabochons with it. And then there was this one. This one really got my heart racing later that day. Let me get it wet and I'll show you why. As you can see, this one is a beautiful moss agate. This is what I saw out in the field when I sprayed it, so I knew I was finding something great. But check out this other side. Wow, look at that. I just love that pattern in there. This pattern through here especially. This, I think, will be a stunner once I get this thing slabbed and cabbed. What do you think? Yeah, that side's kind of boring, but actually this is interesting because this is what the rock would look like on the outside if you just stumbled across it and broke into it. You'd see that? Wow. It's amazing. Now, as if that last one wasn't amazing enough, the next day I found this one, this moss agate. Wait till you see this one wet. My jaw almost dropped when I saw this thing. Look at the beautiful pattern inside there. Can you imagine how amazing this will look once we slab it and cab it? I was so excited when I found this one. Look at that. Just laying out there in that riverbed. Check out that detail in there. Oh, it just blows my mind, even now looking at this several days later. I'm so happy with that rock. Check it out. Well, if you watched my rock hounding video, you remember this was a live dig where all I could see at first was just this top part. I popped it out and sprayed it off and found this amazing agate right here. This thing has some beautiful detail on it already, but I think has a tremendous potential for something really special. Look at the colors we're seeing in this thing. I know I can see blue and red in it. Oh, I cannot wait to get this on the saw and get a couple of slabs off of it. This one might actually just be split in two and polished. I haven't decided yet, but either way, this will produce some awesome results. I'm sure of that. The good rocks just kept coming. This one popped up a little bit later in the day. Look at the design on this one. That quartz itself is beautiful, but wait till you see this one wet. Okay, now this is wet. Check it out. Look at the pattern in that. I know it's not crazy lace agate, but it almost has that crazy lace look to it. Of course, there's the outside of it. But look what's on the inside. Wow. This is going to be so much fun to slab and cab. I cannot wait to see what it looks like once I get into this a little bit. Will it continue to have that white and red and bluish pattern in there? Maybe more of this over here. And how much of this quartz is going to be in there? Whoa, this was an awesome find. Okay, we're down to the final four. This is one of those white rocks, but I had to save this one. It's in a category all by itself. Look at the amazing color. Let's get this one wet. You see, when I was out there in the field, I saw that green, but I thought that was just maybe, oh, I don't know, some sort of algae or something. So I got this rock home and I scrubbed it with soapy water, and that green is in the rock. Wow, I don't know what exactly it is, but isn't that beautiful? So you've got that quartz, you've got some sort of dark band there, then the, well, I don't know, yellowish brown band, then you have the green and then more quartz. This one's a stunner. I don't know what I'll do with this one. I may not do anything with it. I may just keep it as is. Maybe put some mineral oil on it. That is just an amazing rock. Check out the number 3 rock. Wow, this one was another one of those jaw-dropping rocks that just made me speechless out in the field. Let's get this wet. I just could not believe my luck when I saw this thing. I knew right away it was going to be special. Look at some of the detail on that. Wow, it still takes my breath away. To think this was just laying out in that riverbed, that dry riverbed, just sitting there waiting for someone like me to come along and spot it, take it home and do something with it. Now, what will I do with this one? I have no idea. There's so much going on in there. Look at just the quality of that red sort of, I don't know, what would you call it? It's not banding, it's like, well, whatever you call it. It's just beautiful. Streams of red in there. Wow. What will this look like once we cut into it? I'm almost afraid to find out. I don't want to be disappointed. I don't think I will be, though. Yeah, this is the third best, in my opinion. And now for the second best. Again, if you watch the video, you remember me finding this one. I knew right away it was going to be something special because of the shape and that I could see some fine chalcedony banding in it somewhere along here. But then I got it wet. So there you can see what I saw out in the field. I noticed that and I said, that's got to be chalcedony. This must be something. So I got it plucked out of the ground and I cleaned it up a little bit, and then look at what's inside this thing. This is an exquisite agate nodule. You can see that pink formation in there, and there's some other stuff you can just make out. This is a big, heavy chunk of glorious agate, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I don't know. I'll probably treat this like a really fine bottle of wine and only cut it on a special occasion, maybe my birthday or something. Wow. And I think what I will do is I'll just split it right down like that, open it up and polish it. But I'm not sure. If you have any suggestions, please let me know. This one is just so special to me. Now, mind you, this could also be a complete dud. That's the other thing, right? And that's also the great thing about our hobby. I could get this thing into the shop and I could, let's say, slab it, get 10 good slabs out of this thing, and they could all be duds. I doubt it. Looking at that, I'll bet you it's going to be stunning, but you never know. It could be very disappointing. So this is my number 2 favorite rock of that rock hounding trip. Believe it or not, this is my favorite agate from that whole trip. You're looking at that going, huh? Compared to some of those other ones I just showed you? But let me show you why. So what we have here is what I believe to be a very fine plume agate, and it's unusual in its coloring. Look it in there. You see what I'm talking about? Those little tiny plumes. I see gold, and I think I see blue in there, and light blue. This, I believe, is a very special rock, very uncommon. It's not that large, not like some of the other ones I found, but it's certainly big enough for me to get a couple of slices off of it and make some cabochons. Those will be some amazing cabochons. So all in all, this one's my favorite rock of the whole trip, only because it's just so unique. I didn't find anything else like this on the trip. Hopefully I won't be too disappointed when I cut into this one. We'll see. Thank you all so much for watching this little video of mine. We've now seen up close the agates in the bucket. So these were all my favorite agates. Well, I think these were all the agates that I found on my rock hounding trip to West Texas. Be sure and stay tuned. I'll be coming up with other videos very soon showing cutting these, slabbing these, polishing these, doing all kinds of fun things. Thank you again for watching this video. I do appreciate it.